Questions?
John,
Chris.
Can you detail for us, John, thank you, how this plea agreement came together? I think we were waiting for somewhat of a lengthy pretrial process here. Can you detail where the seed was and how we got to today?
The defense attorneys sent me a letter basically saying that they wanted to, that their client was willing to admit their responsibility and plead guilty. And so when the defense attorneys reached out to us and said that they were ready to plead guilty, we then got the process moving. We were, as you all know, we were scheduled to do it last Monday, but the snowstorm, knocked that out, and we had to move it a week. I would have liked to have it done before Thanksgiving. I would have liked to have the families have some closure to this before the holiday started, but unfortunately Mother Nature did not cooperate, and we had to move until today. So it was basically, Chris, just as simple as the defendant acknowledging his culpability and reaching out to us, telling us they want us to plead guilty.
John, we heard from Peyton Gendron himself today that he spoke with his parents at length about pleading guilty here. We also heard that he modified that gun in his parents' house. Where does the legal accountability for his parents fall at this point?
There's no criminal liability there. So there's no, there has been, in the exhaustive investigation in this matter, which is now 6 months plus, there is no criminal culpability against anyone but him. Now, again, civil liability and civil procedure is a whole nother matter. Obviously a number of the victims have their own attorneys who are some of the finest attorneys in this community, and they will pursue civil action against who they feel needs to be held accountable for this. But as far as criminally, he is the only person who's responsible for these criminal actions. And again, you've heard me say it time and before that I don't like making excuses. Listen here, do we need sensible changes to social media? Absolutely. Do we need sensible changes to gun policies? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, as my father taught me, when you do something wrong, you look in the mirror, and that person in that mirror is the one who's responsible for this carnage. And he is responsible for this, in my opinion, he alone.
John, can you also walk us through the idea that there are, well, let me backtrack for a second. The FBI over the last couple of months has released certain documentation saying that they were concerned, or the Homeland Security was concerned about copycats and other mass shootings based on hate. The manifesto said that he wanted to avoid dying, yet here he is pleading guilty to all of this, will not die on the state level at least, because there's no death penalty here, he'll spend his life in prison. Are you concerned at this point about other potential copycats, or does this embolden other white supremacists?
Well, the mayor said it. Since May 14th, there have been hundreds of victims of mass shootings in this country for all sorts of reasons. Just had a horrific one in Colorado Springs. So yes, I am always concerned about further crimes. I recognize that there are bad people in this world, and bad people in this world need to go to jail, and that is what I have done today. I put a bad person in jail. So yes, I'm obviously concerned, but I have faith in mankind. I have faith in our law enforcement to do what they can each and every day through various intelligence methods and various good old-fashioned investigative tools to do what we can to stop as many as we can. And again, I'm not naive. We obviously can't stop them all, but we can stop some. And we have stopped some. And we will continue to do that not only here in Buffalo, but in this country.
But John, are you concerned about any locations in particular,
No.
especially among the Jewish community where, a factor that the shooter said himself he wanted to target?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to, even if I knew about a specific location, ahead of time, I wouldn't publicly state it, obviously. I'd have our law enforcement, work and try to stop it. So, I'm not going to single-handedly identify any one building or community. I am concerned in general about mass shootings, as the mayor articulated. Yes?
I know you can't talk on the federal case.
Correct.
But in your experience in the legal world, what movement will this cause? Will we see some movement quickly now on that federal decision that we're waiting for?
Well, this is a very unusual case in relation to the federal case. Normally, there is no terrorism charge associated on a state case. So a lot of times, if you go back in some of these previous mass shootings that we've had across the country, in El Paso and other cities in this country, the state charges have always just been the murder charges. And then the federal charge has always incorporated the terrorism element to it, mostly. In this case, we happen to have a state terrorism charge. So that's what makes this case unique, in that our charges on the state level are identical to the charges, not technically, but conceptually identical to the federal charges. And so that adds a unique element that hasn't been seen in the past. So like I said, the only difference in these proceedings from a conceptual standpoint is the sentence. And again, I can't comment on that. Yes, sir.
Could you shed a little more light on the discussion between the letter that you got and what exactly motivated the shooter to want to plead guilty? Was there some conversations that happened, or what was his motivation now to enter that plea now?
Well, those were not articulated on the record, and I really am not at liberty to discuss that aspect of it. Obviously, I believe that the evidence was overwhelming. There was no hiding that. As the mayor said, this is not a surprise. I mean, let's be honest. I didn't just go out, as UB and beat Alabama today. Okay, all right. This is no big upset here at all. All right. The evidence was overwhelming, and so I recognize that he recognized that the evidence was overwhelming, and did what he did. Aside from that, I'm not going to articulate. Yeah, Kev.
Question back to Eileen's question.
Yeah.
Does this pleading guilty to state charges, terrorism charges, does this mean he will automatically be found guilty on a federal level, which carries obviously a death penalty?
No. That process will take its course. That process will go through the mechanisms that it does, and that may very well end up going to a trial. I mean, again, for the layperson, it obviously seems a little ridiculous because he just pled guilty in public. And so if you plead guilty in public, well, doesn't that mean you're guilty everywhere, including the feds? But from a technical standpoint, that matter is still progressing. Yes, sir.
This is a question for Mayor Brown. Mr. Mayor, one of the many issues that came to light as a result of this crime was just how physically segregated the city of Buffalo is. I guess I want to know, what do you make of that, and going forward, is there anything to be done about that? And did that contribute in any way to this crime?
This person wanted to kill as many black people as possible. I live right next to that zip code. My family and I shop at Tops on Jefferson Avenue periodically. I could have been one of the victims killed in the Tops on Jefferson Avenue. We live in a country where there are neighborhoods where a lot of black people live together, where a lot of white people live together, where a lot of Hispanic people live together. That is the American mosaic. So I don't think the fact that a lot of black people lived in a beautiful neighborhood in close proximity to each other contributed to this crime. I think what contributed to this crime was this one individual, like the district attorney said, who for whatever reason, whatever evil and darkness was in his heart and soul, wanted to kill as many black people as possible.
Commissioner, we heard some of the evidence that was collected by police officers at the scene, including the gun, some of the writings that were on the gun, the manifest for the video. And we also heard how he was arrested without any incident. What did it take for Buffalo police officers to coax the suspect into, or the shooter, into putting that gun down, taking it off of his neck, and taking him into custody?
You know, I commend the work of the officers, the 3 officers that initially engaged him, and then a 4th that came in and was able to help take him into custody. The demeanor, the calm demeanor in their voices, being in a parking lot and seeing the carnage that was in the immediate proximity of where they were and attempting to take him into custody, seeing that they were outmatched with firepower as well as the gear that he had on, and the amount of I guess time and you know, in the effort in their voices to attempt to de-escalate that to the best that they could. Thankfully, he did not point the weapon at any of the officers at that time. He had the weapon on himself, and then shortly thereafter put the weapon down on the ground. They continued to talk him down, talk him down, talk him down. They kept him in a very, using a very calm demeanor in their voice. So they were able to move in, safely take him into custody, which prevented him from going back into the store, which prevented him from firing shots at people in the parking lot, from firing shots at our officers. I'll take that conclusion all day long.
Did he make any statement to police at that point?
I'm not going to comment on any statements that he made.
John, can you talk about the logistics here? Now that he's pleaded guilty and he'll be sentenced in a state courtroom, will he go to a state prison? Will he be held in Erie County? How does that all work now?
Well, that'll be up to discussions that we have, that actually the Department of Criminal Justice in New York State will have with the feds. So obviously his fed case is going to continue, and so the Department of Corrections in New York will have conversations with our federal partners and decide where he actually stays. So long answer to your question is that to be determined.
Well, I guess because it's a cost to the taxpayers of Erie
Yeah.
County.
Well, I mean, sir, the public's going to pay for it, obviously, whether it's in a federal courthouse, a federal jail, or our county jail. Yeah, I mean, the taxpayers overall are going to pay for it, whether we're paying for it with our federal tax dollars or our county tax dollars. That's up in the air. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of two-part. One, can you give a general time frame of when the defense letter arrived with you? And two, is there a waiver of appeal with the plea today?
Well, first question, a few weeks ago. The second question is no, because we are not in a position to enforce any conditions on the defendant, because he pled guilty to the indictment, all right? So anytime an individual walks in and pleads guilty to the indictment, I'm not in a position to mandate anything. There are no conditions on his guilty plea. That includes him affirmatively waiving his right to an appeal. It is what it is. Maki, yeah.
Nationally, we know that there have been many mass shootings since this, and different states have different laws regarding guns and red flags and all that. In terms of New York, in terms of Erie County, do you think enough has been done to prevent something like this happening here again?
Well, the answer to that question, Maki, presupposes that you can eliminate something like that happening here again. And the reality in the world that we live in is that you're never going to be able to do that. You are never going to be able to eliminate the possibility that a mass shooting will take place. I believe that the individuals who are leading this city, the mayor and this commissioner, have done everything in their power to ensure nothing like this happens again. I believe that I have done everything in my power to ensure found guilty after trial, or he no, again, whether or not every single thing has to ensure that this that's an open question. Try to get involved in politics and try my best things with regard to social media, to gun, absolutely.
One of the things that keeps me up at night is what we don't see, what we don't aren't able to figure out, what we aren't able to stop, and what we don't know. We have created a new unit in this police department, the Threat Management Unit, which will do its best, working with the FBI to try to root these things out and try to find some of that ideology or somebody who is looking to cause harm to somebody before they actually turn that into action. That includes the use of New York State's enhanced red flag laws. We have done a number of those. We believe that we have intercepted a few individuals that at least put out information that they intended to do harm. Like I said, the unfortunate thing is that we don't know what we don't know. And this unit, working with the FBI and working with the Sheriff's Department, the state police, and all the other agencies, are working day in and day out using all of the tools available to try to find someone that is intending to do harm. So it's tough, and I can stand here and tell you now that we're not going to be 100% successful. No police department will. There will be more that happens. We just have to do our best. We will do our best.
Time for one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Were any of the officers who apprehended the shooter in the grocery store parking lot of African American descent?
Yes, well, I believe one was mixed.
John, can I just follow up on one thing that you mentioned? You said that you wanted a fair trial,
Yes.
and that you wanted that trial or potential trial to happen here in Erie County as opposed to Cattaraugus County or
Well,
Allegheny County.
I just use those two examples.
But I just
Yeah.
wonder, though, do you think that you would not have had a fair trial in those two southern tier counties?
No. I just wanted a jury that were peers of the victims. That was my only concern. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I know the federal case is on, as you said, a separate
Yep.
track, it's on its own track. But I wonder, have there been discussions that you can acknowledge with the federal team where you might get sort of a quote universal resolution that resolves the death penalty issue?
No.
No, you can't acknowledge or no?
Oh, no, there have not been. Because I don't step on their toes and they don't step on my toes. And so they're literally two separate paths.
John, with the last question, I guess, for me, life without parole is the highest consequence here in New York State. Should there be a death penalty in New York?
I'm not going to comment on that. I only comment on what the law is, and the law in New York State is that there is no death penalty. Okay, thank you.